What is up, everybody? My name is Alex. I'm your host here on the Swole Friends podcast, as well as a co-founder and COO at Swole. Swole is an endurance athlete and active lifestyle brand. We have over 31 different performance powders and daily health supplements that are all proprietary blend-free, clinically dosed, and scientifically proven effective. I'd like to officially welcome you to episode 20 here on the Swole Friends podcast. Today, I have the honor of welcoming Dean Saddoris, the mastermind and co-founder behind the well-known and well-respected brand Caffeine and Kilos. With a shoe game that can make you faint and a desire to provide for the competitive athlete and a willingness to create a brand that you could wear both in and out of the gym, we get into all the details of creating this brand that was birthed in the fall of 2013. We're also going to chat about how Dean has taken his love for caffeine, coffee, and fitness to create a medley that is bold, unique, and packs a solid punch while skating through his roots in California. So here we go. Dean, what's up? How are you?
Well, that was a great intro. Thank you for having me. Episode 20, the big 2-0. Nice round number. I like that. Happy to be here.
So you get it.
Yeah. I love that shirt, by the way. The mint is a classic.
For any of our followers here on the video, yes.
Yeah, sweet. That one, that's definitely in rotation constantly. That's a good mint. It's nice, and it's like subtle, but also like kind of flashy at the same time. It works. Yeah.
You guys do a good job with apparel.
We try.
Apparel is not the only thing you guys do. You do kind of a wide variety of things. So let's kind of get started. I want to start at the beginning, though. I want to, people know the name. It's a household name in CrossFit and lifting and just in general. It's a brand that, I remember being around for quite a while. But where did it start? How did it start? Give me the scoop there.
Yeah, the kind of the quick, but also like it's not like the most crazy story, but it's so there was me, my current partner Danny Lear, and Charlie Zamora, which was a owner with us at the time when we first started. Circle back a little bit. I started CrossFit in around 2009, 2010-ish era, and I stepped into one of our previous co-owners with us at the time, Charlie. His gym is where I started doing CrossFit at. Actually, we grew up together, went to basically grade school, or not grade school, middle school through high school together. We've known each other for a long time, just through sports and just through, we grew up in the same area. And long story short, he opened up a CrossFit gym. And this was when CrossFit was still pretty underground, still pretty new. But I was like always kind of interested in it as like an ex-athlete, wanting to find like that next thing to do, right? Like almost like, like a new identity or something. Like, okay, well, what's a new hobby I can like get into and like really sink my teeth into? And that kind of ended up being CrossFit. And, at that time in CrossFit, if you go and do like even like a local competition, especially here in California, you were competing with like, the best in the country or even in the United States. You're going against guys like Jason Khalipa and Blair Morrison and Chad Augustine and all these games athletes and games teams. And it was just like a really interesting thing because it's all these guys that you're seeing like, as legends now in the sport or in, but it was like, that's who you were competing with as like me, as like a 22-year-old kid who's like been doing this for a year, and now I'm competing next to like these dudes that are like, the pros, the top of their game, right? Winning the CrossFit games. Mm-hmm. And it was this really interesting time in California and like in the beginning of CrossFit. And long story short, what I'm getting to is, so we were basically become friends with these guys, right? And just from competition and just gym hopping and events and stuff like that. And lifting a lot at Charlie's gym. And we always just kind of had this connection of coffee and weightlifting was just something kind of like this gym culture, right? It was like this, there's just this culture with, everybody walks in the gym with their coffee, right? And then it's like straight to the platform and start working out. And we're all getting fired up on coffee. And that was actually, Charlie had this idea of he wanted to host this big, like CrossFit / weightlifting event. That wasn't really a thing at the time. No one did like these co-linear events, right? Where it's like half CrossFit, half Olympic weightlifting. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want it to just be like just a regular local weightlifting meet. We wanted to be like the best lifters in the entire country, like Team USA level lifters. And, with our connections and with, just kind of the area being so populated with athletes, we got a ton of signups for the CrossFit side. And then that's when Danny got involved because he was lifting for Cal Strength at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, hey, you want to partner with us on this event we want to do? We wanted to call it the Caffeine and Kilos Invitational. And the whole brand was actually kind of launched through this first competition. It was like kind of like almost like the merch for the competition that ended up becoming like this whole thing it is now, which is just kind of weird how that just kind of worked out. But the whole thing started with this competition, and then we got Danny involved to kind of help set up all the lifters, and we got basically the biggest cash prize in the history of USA weightlifting, for these top lifters. I think first place got like 10 grand or something. It was crazy. Like there was no such thing as money like that in weightlifting. And the way we afforded this was we just took, all the money from like the registration to use it to pay these athletes like to chase their kind of Olympic dreams, right? It was kind of like almost like a charity event in a way. And it was really cool. It was a really special time, and it was a lot of fun. And we've came a long way since then, but that's kind of I'm sure I'm leaving some stuff out, but that's kind of the gist of how the whole brand became what it is out of this event. So.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people might not know that, or like probably the people who have been following you for a while. Were you guys kind of like the party planners growing up in college, or, how to throw an event before that?
Definitely. Especially Charlie was really into like these big kind of events and like planning. And that's kind of where he really was specialized in getting people involved in stuff and getting people excited about and things and events, and very well connected person as well, right? And getting our brand on these big athletes and popular people at the time, obviously when social media was relatively new as well, right? We were just kind of in this like really niche time frame where like social media influence was like kind of just starting out, and fitness on social media was just kind of starting out. Like we're talking 2013, right? So it's like it's not really Instagram back then was really kind of like what your family you're doing, like what you're eating for dinner. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this big marketing tool necessarily yet. Some people were obviously doing it. We're not like the first people to do it, obviously, but it just wasn't what it was or what it is now, right? Where it's like this big brand tool now instead of just like this social site. So like those kind of like all those perfect storms of all those things coming up at the same time really helped us get our brand, eyes on our brand, really early on. And it kind of took off kind of like a rocket ship from there. So.
Totally. So has the event mainly always been in California, or did you guys like kind of branch out? I mean, you see people doing circuits, like circuit events. Like Lindsay popped in here. She's like, we love CNK and all they do to support Girls Gone RX and compete for a cure. Like Girls Gone RX is something that's across the country. Lindsay, awesome. Thank you for tuning in too. We love that. But did you guys go bigger with that? Was that part of it, or did you want to keep it at home?
Well, our specific event was always every year at home base, right? And as far as other events outside of that, we really didn't have this vision of it being more of like an event company, right? It was like this one thing we did that we sold the stuff at, right? And then the clothes just got so popular because so many people could relate to it, right? And it was just like that became such a priority so quick. Because of how many people were like, how people responded to it. So it was definitely like the brand side of it, and the clothes and the hats and stuff were like what really became the priority, not the event side of it. But then obviously down the road, as time goes on, we've done a lot more with like sponsoring as many events as we can, and supporting as many events as we can, but not necessarily hosting them.
Totally. Well, and really kind of taking that feel of like the community that you guys are a part of and really immersing yourself into that rather than having to be like the host.
Yeah.
Great.
And obviously going to like the big events like regionals at the time, and the Wadapaloozas and the USAW national meets and stuff like that. And even the local scene obviously too is very important to us, and we still go to local events with booths and do that. And we always know how important it is to be face to face with our customers, and just being there. It just makes a big difference, we feel like. So we always try and stay true to that, no matter how size of the company or whatever. We always, even at local events and stuff. So
Totally. You're a pretty stylish person. I mean, I mentioned your shoe game. I was looking for a photo for your cover here in our branding, and got real deep in the Instagram. And I
Yeah.
out you're very creative. You have a pretty cool eye for your photos, and you have a lot of shoes. Now, are those like still in the house, or talk to me about this shoe game?
So the shoe game has definitely taken a few notches back since, became a dad. That kind of fell to the wayside. Got a little bit more priorities now. Where, there was a time though where my whole life I've been really into shoes, whether it was skate shoes or, Jordans and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it just kind of comes with my interest just in clothing and fashion. It just all kind of goes hand in hand with that. And I feel like where those early years of being involved in that what kind of led me down this path I'm on now. So
Totally. Did you go to school? Let's talk about early Dean. Let's talk about, younger Dean. What was younger Dean's life like?
I'm a college dropout. Went to school and just I did okay in high school. Wasn't like a super studious person, but I'm a smart person necessarily. I feel I'm a smart person, but I'm just not interested in things I'm not interested in. So it was kind of like I learned that about myself very early on, that I just wasn't going to do things that I didn't like doing.
Mhm.
And I always knew like it was going to work out for me as long as I just kind of stuck to what I believe was right or what I was into. And just kind of always kind of had that mindset of, even before C&K, I was doing other smaller brands on my own that were like people really liked. And when there wasn't like these huge, brands or anything like that, but I always felt like, okay, like I think I can do this. I think I can do this.
Mhm.
And I didn't think it was going to be in the fitness space, as far as like that kind of stuff, but it was always a passion. It was always something I was doing on the side, and just doing for like a side hustle kind of thing. But yeah, then it ended up kind of working out because I think I just kind of stuck with it and didn't quit, didn't give up or whatever.
Mhm. So I'm going to pull up a little note here. So 20% of businesses fail within the first year. By the end of the second year, 30% of businesses will have failed. By the end of the fifth year, about half will fail. And by the end of the decade, only about 30% of those businesses will remain altogether. As a business owner, whether you're taught this in school, you read it in a book, you hear it on a podcast like this, that's about a 70% failure rate for a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 2023. Your guys' 10-year anniversary is coming up right in the fall. If that's
Yep. Yeah. 10 years.
Like that is a pretty big honor and accomplishment as a business owner, as a business partner. How does that feel to even hear?
To be very blunt and honest, it feels totally insane. Excuse me, sorry, just had lunch, tacos. No, yeah, no, it's just it's honestly it's crazy. It feels like it was just yesterday. We were all grinding in the attic, and so one of our previous business partners, Charlie, the whole thing we started out of his gym, the apparel side of things and the coffee side of things is he had this like attic crawl space in his gym that was like high enough to stand.
Yeah.
And it was like there was like the storage room and then these like shitty little stairs. Pardon my language, I don't know if we can cuss, but like there's these little stairs to this like the building crawl space, storage space. And that was original CK headquarters. And like at that time, I had quit my job, moved back in with my parents, my dad. My parents were split up, but I moved back in with my dad, quit my job, and kind of told him like, hey, Dad, I'm like going for this thing. Like, and I've always been a self-sustained, person. Like even though I didn't have to, like I moved out at an early age, was on my own feet at an early age. And I wasn't like this like degenerate that just like sat around and do anything. So when I told my dad like, hey, I want to move back in and like start this thing, it wasn't like okay, here we go. He was very supportive and he believed in us and believed in me because he knew I was a hard worker. I wasn't just like some fantasy like, oh, I'm going to like, build this brand and like this thing and it's going to blow up. Watch, like he always kind of believed in us and in me in that, which was really cool to have that support. And it was actually very, very important, I think, to the brand's potential for success because I didn't work and I didn't get paid for almost a year with Caffeine and Kilos in the very beginning because every dollar we made, and we were bringing in a lot of money early on, but we just reinvested it into the brand and not into our pockets, right? So it was obviously building this healthy brand right from the jump with no experience in that, I think was something that we just, thank God we did, or else I don't think we would be here today. Right. So yeah, grinding in the attic for, 12 months in this gym. And luckily, we were able to, not have to pay necessarily a rent for a space to do all this fulfillment out of. And then once we had some extra money, we obviously started paying, Charlie and his wife at the time, some, rent to kind of like compensate for taking up all their space in their gym. And until eventually we got into the warehouse that we're in today. Now we got, employees and offices and ping pong tables and a little different than the attic.
Enough coffee for everyone, I hope.
Enough coffee for this entire city. So
have you been pretty passionate about coffee, or was that kind of just like something that you guys figured out along the way?
No, I wasn't at all. Like, especially like I would drink it, but I wasn't passionate about it in those early days at all. It was just like go to Starbucks, grab a iced coffee or an iced Americano, black, and just drink it as fast as I could to to get all fired up for the workout. And it was just something that was like this. It was, pre-workout was a thing for us too. And like we did the pre-workout stuff and, you name it, we took that pre-workouts. And but for us, we just kind of found this like weird coffee thing. It was kind of what we did.
Yeah. I love it. Do you guys roast now in-house?
So our roaster is off-site.
Cool.
But it's in it's in Sacramento. We're in Elk Grove.
Yeah.
Which is like a smaller city that's 15 minutes from Sacramento, the big city, Sacramento. So we're all in Sacramento County, but our roaster is like 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the warehouse.
Cool. So you're not like printing shirts with one hand and roasting with the other hand?
No. Actually, our printing's done in Daly City with a one of the best guys in the country that does, kind of apparel printing and stuff like that. And shout out to Paul over at Apparel Graphics. Works with, a lot of big brands, and the guy's attention to detail and their equipment over there is like next level. So it's, they do a great job, and that's, comes next day, stuff like that. It's really quick turnaround. And yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So in my journey of being ass deep in your Instagram, I saw and I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, so I'm not even going to try, but there was a photo of a hat. And I remember you said, before we started this brand, this was one of my favorite brands that I looked up to. And now how cool is it to sit down and look at what's in my hands is like this collaboration between two things that I love.
Yeah. Official. Talking about official, the brand Official. So yeah, growing up as a skater in Sacramento, especially like in the early 2000s to 2010-ish era, right? The snapbacks and stuff were just like at an all-time peak of popularity, right? And this brand Official just happened to be based out of Sacramento also. Like they had like all the pro skaters were, had a lot of sponsored pro skaters on their team, and you go to the mall and you see their hats just everywhere. They were probably sold more hats than I don't even know how many people, but they were huge. And eventually we ended up doing a collab with them, which was kind of like one of those surreal moments for me, especially at the time, and got to build a relationship with them and their family. And it was cool. It was just like this little Sacramento cultures colliding kind of thing of like skate culture and fitness culture, which was like, that's what I was and that's what I am as an individual. But like to do that like outside of myself with another brand and give that to, our audience, I thought was really cool. And it was, people really liked those hats. They were sick. They were fun.
I know. I was looking at it. It's like, wait, where do I get one of these?
I know. Years ago. I was holding on to a few of them that I ended up just like wearing and stuff. And then I don't have any fresh ones anymore. I was like, man, I wish I would have really just kept on, held on to one. But yeah, they were cool.
Yeah, that's neat. As far as like adversities, what do you feel like are some of the challenges? I mean, having a 10-year business almost. I mean, I'm sure you guys have gone through some shit, truthfully.
Oh yeah, no, we've been through it all. There's been times where we were spending way too much money, like as far as like on inventory. And we kind of get in this like cycle of overspending and underselling as far as like not underselling necessarily, but just having too much overhead
Mm-hmm.
is like always a problem, right? Where businesses kind of, find their, their problems. And we were just sitting on a ton of inventory, but like we were selling stuff every day, but it's not having our inventory dialed in where we were having stuff come in as soon as things are kind of falling out. We were just sitting on too much product, which
Mm-hmm.
then hurts cash flow, right? Where you need cash flow to, pay the bills. You got to pay employees. You got to pay everybody. So it's like you need cash in the bank for those things, right? Where you don't necessarily need cash in the bank for inventory or stuff like that. You get on terms. There's a million different avenues with that. But as far as, your hard bills, you got to be able to pay people. So, getting in and going through those little adversities and figuring those things out. And it's been a journey. There's been, peaks and valleys and everything, right? And it's how you react and how you pivot on those, in those positions, and just popularity of certain items too, right? When we first started, we couldn't keep hats in stock necessarily, right? And then there was this phase where people just didn't really want hats anymore. So then adjusting to that and doing more of other things that, are selling better, and finding those things, and, trying to, what do our first time customers want? What do our recurring buyers want? Just finding all those things out over the course of 10 years and trying to just fine tune the business, right? So we're trying to basically spend as little as we can and bring in as much as we can at the same time, right? Always the magic numbers, right?
Mm-hmm. Have you guys always been mainly like e-com, or is it more so like you're selling in person? Do you guys have a storefront? What's that?
We're
kind of
100% like, I would say 95% of our business has always been e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
So we've always been an online brand. Yeah, we do have like a storefront in our warehouse where people that are passing through town or want to come by the warehouse, but basically it's like, just go in the back, walk down the aisles, whatever you want. But we also have like a little setup in the front as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more, not just a warehouse with Kevin and me running around there annoying you. But yeah, e-commerce has always been our bread and butter. And there was a time though where in the early CrossFit Games era where we would be able to go to like a CrossFit Games in LA and make like, a lot of money there instead of like it costing money to be there, which is like kind of what these events have turned into now, is like, they're charging the same prices for booths when it was at its peak popularity, where they're getting like 30% less foot traffic. Now it becomes more of an expense, and it becomes more of like a, let's hope we can break even at this event and, get some leads and grow the business through that. But there was a time though, there was a few years where like you could go to a CrossFit Games and just make a ton of cash and just really expand the brand through face-to-face interactions and, take that home and then have some cushion to like try new designs and try new things and stuff like that. But yeah, e-commerce has always been our main source of, revenue.
Yeah. And speaking about events, I'm just going to keep referencing my Instagram creeping.
Yeah.
But like you and your now wife were at the CrossFit Games, you know what I mean? And there's this cute little photo of you guys. And when did you guys, like, as a company, stop? I assume you stopped going to the bigger events.
Oh, we still go. No, we still go. Yeah. But there was like the only time we didn't go to the CrossFit Games was 2000, I think like the year of COVID or after COVID. Like that was like the first time we didn't go.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it just cost so much money to be there.
Yeah.
And there was a time like when we would go to these events, and to stand out, you had to drop 30, 40 grand on just a build out. That was a one-time fee that you're not getting it's not coming home with you. Like that's just money out.
Yeah.
And like that's not something that we prioritize anymore because the return isn't there anymore. But now we go to these events and we just aren't doing all that extra anymore, right? So we're still there. We still have a presence. We still feel the importance to be there, but it's definitely not like this big extravaganza kind of like display for us. There's people that are always looking forward to us being there. So it's, and the face-to-face stuff is very important, like I mentioned before, but also when we go to these events, especially the ones out of town, like the Arnold or the CrossFit Games or the Europa or Waterpaloozas, we do as many gym seminars, free weightlifting clinics as we can. So we just hit up a bunch of gyms.
Mm-hmm.
We set up a bunch of, Danny is like the king of this. Danny's a great coach, great knowledge of weightlifting, and just really breaks it down for people to easy for them to understand. And he just does this great job of getting in as many gyms as we can while we're there. And just like people just get so pumped up to get like an hour free seminar on how to move the bar around a little bit better. Everybody takes something away from those, and people just have a great time. And that's just another opportunity just to, leave a positive image with the brand and positive impact on the community. It's just basically like, just something that we feel like we just always need to prioritize is, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think, that's one of the big reasons why Walter, the co-founder here as well as myself, really liked you guys and really liked meeting you almost a year ago now, I want to say.
Yeah. NorCal Classic. Yeah.
So not even a year ago. Like
close.
Not long ago. Oh yeah.
It feels like it was 5 years ago for some reason.
I'm like, what? Where's time? But
it feels like it was longer than it was.
I think that means we're getting old or something.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's that brand alignment with people who, we love being a part of the community. We love being a part of the lifting and the fitness community, and really getting in front of people, and it's about that lasting kind of impact. And we were just at Wadapalooza. It was amazing. It was the first time we had brought the brand. We had been quite a few times before that.
Yeah.
Bringing the brand. And I think that the online, and you will definitely probably have a perspective on this, but the online community and shopping has changed the consumer a lot and changed, you know what I mean? Like what people go to these events for, right? And being a fan and being a part of it, or just being a fan, being there because you like it, because your brands are going to be there, or going and not giving a rat's ass about the brands because you're there for the fan aspect, right? I feel like that's been something that has changed throughout time, and being a participant of a brand throughout the time of CrossFit or the industry. Or do you feel like that's been kind of the same?
I think it's definitely changed. I think, we didn't go to Wadapalooza this year. Honestly, just kind of one of those things where we just been kind of doing a lot of things, and it just kind of creeped up on us. And it was just like, let's not try and scramble and get this in and get this done. And, let's just, we don't need to necessarily just totally pivot and change our focus to going to this event. And we're a pretty small group here. We only got like 7 or 8 employees total. So it's like, we're a small, tight group here. And it just didn't work out this year, but I love Wadapalooza. I love that event. It's always been fun. The first few years we went there, it was, some of the best memories I have, and a lot of athletes that I met there, like guys like Noah Olson that, joined the team at we met him there, and that's how he became like a CK athlete and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of history we have with that event specifically. And you're right. I think over time, especially back in the day, it was like people went there to shop. It was like this fitness festival of like shopping and just like checking out what the next thing people got coming out is, try the new supplement. It was this very more involved vendor was a big part of it, where now I feel like I'm seeing more of like people just kind of staying in the arena more and not necessarily shopping, and just kind of doing most of their shopping online anyways, and it's just like they're there to maybe get some samples or maybe peek around. But we're definitely at these big events, we're definitely, and it's not even just us, like the big like people like Rogue and like the other big brands, like the foot traffic just isn't the same as it used to be. And that just could be because maybe there's not as many people at these events, or I'm not really sure.
Could be because of COVID. I mean, it could be the fact that for the last 3 years we forgot what it's like to go places.
Yeah. I think that's totally a factor.
I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely seems different. Like, I mean, I hate like talking about back in the day, but like in Carson, it was like the vendor village was so packed. There'd be a line out, for 30, 40 people trying to get into the booths at some booths. And our booth, obviously was always pretty popular there because it's kind of our hub, our area, this kind of West Coast fan base. Especially then when we were younger, before we were kind of more expanded everywhere. But it was just way more of a party, where it's like kind of more focused now, and it's kind of more corporate. and it's kind of this weird thing. It's not like this underground festival anymore. It's kind of more like this like bigger thing, and that just kind of brings a different type of customer. I think that maybe is there to kind of more focus on the sport. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I don't know.
Foot traffic is just definitely not the same as it was at these big events. And I don't have all the answers to it, but it's definitely noticeable.
Mm-hmm. An interesting point. I was last week got to sit down with Matt Torres. Matt Torres is a head coach over at Brooke Strength. I don't know if you guys have ties, but great human, awesome human. But one of the things we talked about, towards the end was he's saying, talking to the viewers and talking to the people who listen to the podcast, and he's like, support your athletes. Like, tell them, if you are a fan, send them a nice DM. Don't be shitty in their DM. Send them a nice DM. Send them a comment. Hey, I'm your fan. Hey, I'm rooting for you. And like really remembering that there's like that human aspect to the entertainment side of where CrossFit is going, even though it may feel more corporate or may feel more structured.
Yeah.
And I think like on the brand side of things, kind of one of those takeaways that I also loop to and like coming back and reflecting on Wodapalooza, like, you sit down and you talk about what went well and what went terrible and who knows what way it went. Is like also recognizing like the brands that are committed to the community and recognizing that they are the ones putting up the athletes, right? And recognizing kind of this like food chain of like what happens and how this exists, and connecting to those brands and not getting so wrapped up in like this guy on this social media and this guy on that social media, and like actually learning more about people, and that's why I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, because it's like, guys, get to know Dean. Like, I met Dean. I think Dean's an amazing human, but get to know what's behind the 230,000 followers that they have on Instagram.
Yeah, right? For sure. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that maybe people are a little hesitant to reach out to these athletes because they might think that they might not see it or whatever, but trust me, they're going to see it. They're going to like, and it's going to make them feel good. And they're going to, they're going to remember it, and they remember why they do this. They're doing it because obviously they like it, but they also do it, to entertain people and to, showcase fitness and what it can do to change lives, right? Because that's, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to promote fitness and a positive, healthy lifestyle at the end of the day, right? Like, that's always been the number one goal, it's even in our kind of our mission statement, right? It's like, make you look good and feel good, in and out of the gym. And that's kind of what we've always kind of stood by. And those positive, self-images and positive, just, energy from fitness can give to people. It's always been huge. It's always going to be important, I think, in my life.
Yeah, I think so too. Did you guys, kind of speaking about mission, when you guys originally set out to do the event and then it fostered the growth of this brand, did you have the idea of what it would be and what it is now then? Or is that something that like developed over time, as far as like that mission vision?
I think that because of the brand and how fast it got popular, it didn't take that long to think that like, oh, we got something pretty unique here. Obviously, like at the very beginning, did we think it would be like where it is today, this 10-year brand that's, still, still in the space, still relevant, still, people still enjoying it. Like, you'd have to be almost kind of like egotistical or kind of like maybe a little crazy to like think that you can just like start a brand up and get it to that level but also like if you don't do it, like you got to try, right? And it's hard to answer that, like yes but no. Like I had faith in like our team to do something special, but did we think like it was going to blow up as fast as it did? No, definitely not. I'm just more happy with how we maneuvered those early times because of how fragile a brand is always, and like how easy early on it is to just lose focus and get off track and make bad decisions that will, no matter how much you're selling, if you're not doing good business, the brand can go away in a month, right? So I'm just more proud of how we avenued those early success days and got out of those
totally
without, falling off under our own demise of just like not managing things correctly and just getting people in the right roles at the right time, treating it like a business right away. because, you know, that's very hard to do. Some people like, you know, try and do it themselves, or, you know, just don't have the right people in the place, and just kind of delegating those specialty roles to kind of help this thing actually become like a actual brand, an actual business, you know, to now where it's just like a corporation now, or like I'm just an employee of the Caffeine and Kilos Corporation, you know. So it's just, it's to answer your question, definitely did not see it becoming where it was today, like out right away, by any means.
With all of the new competitors and apparel brands, I am sure you've seen your fair share of them. I know we have seen a fair share of them. How and what has C&K done to stay relevant, and what have been some key strategies to be relevant and to stay on top of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great one. I think collaboration is huge. I think, you know, instead of, it's so funny, people ask us or me, and they'll say like, dude, like, what do you about that brand that, or so-and-so's doing coffee now, and like, you know, how you feel about that? And I'm like, well, dude, anybody that starts associating coffee and fitness together, it's good for us. It's just as much as it's good for them. So they have this platform that they're reaching people on that are interested in coffee and fitness. That's only going to help everybody else that's involved in that. That's how I look at it. It's like they're just expanding this this idea. You know, it's almost like free marketing. You know what I mean? Like they'll find us or they won't, you know, and then people will find them through us. You know, that's just kind of how that goes. And not looking at it in the negative side of like, oh, that's like, you know, we were doing that first or whatever. It's like, hey, we didn't invent coffee and we did not invent fitness. So it's like, you know what, and it's working for us. And if someone that sparks somebody to start something up, like, you know what, good for them and best of luck to them. And I hope that they get a following that will then bring people in to see everybody else that's doing that too, right? So I think, you know, just having like a positive mindset on stuff like that, and then also just I mean, I think I've always been I've always had a good eye on trends and design. So I feel like I do a pretty good job as because it is my main focus for the company is design, creative director, if you want to call it that. You know, like I just kind of do the visual sides of all the designs. I'm not physically making every design sometimes, but I do have some of those you know, those illustrator skills. But yeah, I just kind of know, I kind of keep my eye on a lot of brands and a lot of things. See kind of what people are doing, what colors they're using, like what are popular colors right now, what are popular styles, and just staying on that. It's a full-time job in itself, just kind of staying on trend, right? So it's like, I think we've done a good job of staying true to ourselves, but also like expanding our design portfolio with what people are wanting at that time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Where are some of the main avenues, or what are some of the main avenues of trends that you watch? I mean, what do you spend your time looking at?
I mean, it's all over the place, but I have always told people that almost every popular trend in any kind of like fashion industry is always started on the streets with kids on skateboards. Okay. Like, you know, baggy jeans, skinny jeans, white t-shirts, puffy shoes, skinny shoes. Like it all starts at this base level with skate culture. Like they start all these trends that end up, you know, becoming these big things. And I've always stood by that. And I always feel like every fashion house, no matter how big, is always inspired and just taking ideas from the kids in the streets, you know, skating. And they start all the trends. And that's, you know, that's what I experienced as a kid. And that's what I've seen still happen till today. It's just kind of all starts there. So I just kind of, you know, have my eyes on the brands that I know and I like and kind of what they're doing. And, you know, everybody's inspired by something, right? And I just kind of stay getting inspiration from the things that I'm into, which happens to obviously resonate with other people because it seems to be working for us, you know? So, and there's sometimes where I completely just like do something silly and fun and like, you know, we'll do like our take on like a counterculture Starbucks thing with like our Reaper Cafe thing, right? Like there's stuff like that where it's kind of like old school, streetwear brands, kind of like rebel clothing, right? And we do a good job of like balancing that with our original designs and our kind of classics, right? Like our number one selling shirt 10 years later, guess what it is? The one you're wearing right now, like the Arch logo tee, right? That's still our number one seller. The black and white Arch logo tee outsells every other piece of apparel year after year after year. It's still the number one. And something funny, I don't know necessarily if I've talked about it on a podcast before, maybe our podcast, but I'll never forget, like in the early days of Caffeine and Kilos, when we were actually in Miami, and I was having this conversation with some guys that worked at a big surf brand, Hurley, and we were kind of talking just about business and stuff, and the fact that they even liked Caffeine and Kilos to me was like cool enough.
Right.
And we were just like, kind of like, I'll never forget a piece of advice that they gave me was, stick to your classic design. Don't try and go too far away with products and different things. Just kind of stick to what you're good at, because like we went through it all where we were making X, Y, and Z, and the brand's, health of the business would start to kind of deteriorate. Some numbers were down over some years, and they're like, what's going on? We're doing so good. People like all those things. We're like, why are sales down? And it's like, well, we need to let's go back to the basics. Let's make our number one selling t-shirt, and let's just release it in just more colors. And it like just flip the brand back to, totally just booming, healthy brand again, because they were just trying to do too much. Whereas like people want your classic shirt. They want it in more colors. They'll own 2 or 3, 4 of them. So just like stuff like that. And I just always remembered that. I always think about that like every week, every day. I almost probably think about that conversation, and just like sticking to your classics and just doing more with those. You don't have to just do this crazy elaborate design to get somebody's interest, right? It's like, maybe this is a new Arch logo. It's like a cool color palette, Sometimes the answer is right in front of you.
Absolutely. And it's easy to overcomplicate it. And I think you mentioned, someone starts a coffee company. Oh, do you worry about that? And it's like, if you're intimidated by someone else's potential, are you really looking at your own? Are you really investing fully into your own and into yourself? Or are you worried about who's going to come next and kind of get it from you?
Yeah. And exactly. And I just don't have time to focus on that shit, to be honest with you.
No.
I don't. I'm looking forward. I'm not looking at, to the side or to the right, left or right. I'm just kind of looking forward and bringing people along the way and hitting people up that I respect in the industry, that like I want to, hey, let's do a shirt together, or let's do a blend together. Like, I think your content's hilarious. Like, let's make a coffee together. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I think that's always worked well for us, because we just kind of are very transparent brand, and we were very, we just like collaborating. We like working with people, and we like meeting people, and that's kind of been a successful approach to things for us.
Totally. So D2C, or direct to consumer, it can be a pretty big and scary place for new entrepreneurs and new business, right? Or people who have a dream and they're ready to pull the plug, but they're just like need a little bit of a nudge. For the D2C marketer specifically, what have been some of your guys' strategies to driving more traffic, especially throughout like the social landscape of, IG for businesses? Like, for anyone who doesn't have a business on IG used to be a pretty cool place. IG now for businesses is a pretty dark and shitty place.
Yeah.
It's not fun to open up your phone and have to like deal with all the time. Unless you are really, I don't know, with it. But
it's tough. It's hard.
Do you guys, Facebook ads, Google ads, do you have just pretty solid success through your retail channels? What has YouTube played into it? Where does that digital landscape fit into the business, and how has that changed throughout time for you guys?
We made a lot of mistakes early on, spending too much money on ads and ad people.
Big one.
That just wasn't bringing in any numbers that they were saying, and it was actually, we were just bleeding money through it, to be honest with you. We don't really do much paid advertising almost at all anymore. Like very, very little, very small money. Like I know people that are spending, I'm talking like nothing. Like we're not spending hardly anything on ads, but like I have friends that do, big revenue numbers, but they're spending $100K a day on ads or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just nuts that like what some people can do and it works for them, but it's just like this crazy gamble thing that we just can't do.
Yeah.
And we just have been really good at building a massive email list over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
All of our revenue is made through email. We do have our Facebook, Instagram shops, but like everything we sell is mostly through our email channels and our email networks. Our social media used to be very, very important to sales early on.
Yeah.
But not necessarily anymore. Yeah, people see this stuff, but like we're not getting in front of many people as we used to, with just the way that the algorithms work now and the way that things are and how brands are kind of more, put to the side on in front of like, influencers and people that are doing like, kind of the trance content, right? Of just like reels and just like, that's the kind of stuff that's being promoted now and being pushed into feeds. And that doesn't necessarily fit our brand. So we're going to get less eyes through our Instagram and stuff like that now, right? So it's just kind of obviously a tool that we use 3 times a day, every day. And, we try and do our best on there. But our main focus is just getting emails, as many emails as we possibly can. And that's through giveaway collaborations, doing stuff with brands and generating emails through that. And just, and like we're working on a new program now. We're trying to do more stuff with like referral programs with, customers, internally and, buy something. And, if you refer somebody, you get like a percentage or a $10 discount, stuff like that, just to get in front of new eyes as much as we can is always our goal, right? It's new, fresh leads that are not like cold leads. We want, people that are actually interested.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not buying like, data online from something, you know what I mean? Like none of that crap. Like we want people that are actually interested. Like we didn't want to have leads just to have leads. But I kind of like back to your question, I guess we just been just building this list over 10 years. And just like, I think that I always tell anybody, all my friends that start brands, like just try and just do as many leads as you can. Just try and build this email, even if you're not sending emails yet.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, just try and get as many emails as you can. Cause that's how you're going to connect to these, people the best and like direct. And, it's a lot easier to sell through email than it is, I think, anything else, unless you are a popular person yourself that has a brand, like a celebrity type brand that does a ton of like one-on-one email or one-on-one messaging through social media, right? Like it's a lot easier, I think, for them to sell through those channels and do that stuff. Where for us, like Caffeine and Kilos doesn't really, it's like so much bigger than the people that own it. It's like, there's nothing to do with us at this point, right? It's its own entity now. It's its own thing. It doesn't have like necessarily like a face of a person. Like our athletes and our ambassadors represent our brand. But as far as like itself, Caffeine and Kilos has became its own thing, its own community, its own, like we call it, the lifestyle like of Caffeine and Kilos. It is the face. It's not like any one person selling something, right? They're not buying a Caffeine and Kilo shirt because I wear it. Right. That has nothing to do with me. It's what the brand represents. It's what, so what I'm getting at with that is, like it's for us, our approach has to kind of be more the email marketing side. But if you're like obviously a famous influencer, I think just doing more that style of content is going to benefit your success and your sales and whatever you're trying to achieve there. But if you're trying to start something that necessarily isn't a face, I think definitely grabbing as many emails as you can and just getting your messaging across with blogs, and not necessarily every email doesn't need to be like a sales thing, but just like giving out information, expanding the knowledge of like what you're about and like what people are doing that align with what you're up to and stuff like that. So
yeah,
a lot there and a lot of things I'm probably leaving out, but on the spot, that's what I can definitely feel like something you can get use of out of that.
I think you hit it pretty well. And it's like, give people something to connect to. That's not like, if you're not going to put a person on there, like you're not going to put a face specifically on there, you have to give them something to connect to, because otherwise you're just another shirt. Otherwise you're just another pre-workout. Otherwise you're just noise and you're not contributing towards that overall change, or like like you're saying, and that vision for the company and helping people explore fitness and their, what they love to do and getting healthier and happier. And, like in our mission, we talk about helping people live every day to their ultimate human potential.
Yeah.
Everyone's human potential is totally different, but that's what people connect with. It's not, hey, Alex, like I buy 12 of your supplements. I mean, obviously we have friends that support us and family and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you, and they're like, I have way too many supplements in my cabinet because of you. And I'm like, I didn't tell you to buy them. I'll buy them back if you want. No, but it's fun. You know what I mean? And it's fun to create something that's a lot bigger than yourself. And I think that in the industry and the fitness, integrity is what outlasts a lot of things. And, Caffeine and Kilos, and you guys all, represent that well and are never unwilling to do what needs to be done to get where you need to go, and I think that was a really cool visual representation. I mean, being at the last Caffeine and Kilos Invitational, whenever that was in was September?
September. Yeah, we did. No, October 1st.
Yeah. So pretty close in there. And
I had COVID. I couldn't even go to my own event.
Oh, no.
I was so sick.
I was wondering, Walter's like, did you see Dean? And I was like,
I was,
no, I don't know.
I was, that was the sickest I've been. And I mean, since I could remember, I don't really get sick. I've always, I work out regularly. I kind of eat pretty good stuff most of the time. Obviously I eat crap too, but like, I just don't really get sick. I kind of put myself on the side of like, do everything I can not to get sick so I can continue being with my family. But I got hit hard by COVID. It got me good. And I was down for the count for that event. But yeah, anyways, sidetrack.
Oh, I mean, that's tough, right? And especially
it was tough. It was tough.
In COVID, and you're trying to be in like some other room of wherever you are.
Yeah, it sucked, man, because it was like a new location for us. And we added strongman this year. And that was another thing, I kind of just totally forgot because it's so new. And that was another kind of expanding the brand, outside of just CrossFit and weightlifting and powerlifting is where, we partnered up with, some strongman events this year and just trying to do what we can to kind of get in front of those people too. And new groups of people, because we have a lot of friends that are big into those other sports as well that, love repping the brand. And, and those people are now kind of like, oh, I wish Caffeine and Kilos would come to our events too and, support us. And we're doing the best we can to kind of bring, our presence to those type of sports as well, which I think has been fun too. And we had, having strongman as a part of the Caffeine and Kilo Invitational this past year was really cool. You should be just like have two sport event and now a 3-sport event. It was pretty cool.
3-event. No.
And I got to miss it, and that sucked. I was really excited to see it all play out. Actually, one of I call her my Swiss Army knife. Her name's Kristen. I think you met Kristen, I'm sure, at the event. She, she kind of just chips at that all year long, that invitational, and she just does a great job of every time of just pulling it off.
Yeah,
she's a very valuable asset to us, and we couldn't ask for a better, person to have around. And a lot of the success of that event goes to her 100%. Most of it, actually. She just kind of tells me and Danny what to do. At that point, it's like, you guys do this, you guys do this, and we're like, yes, ma'am.
She's also like very calm and collected. I mean, I remember I got in there, like I don't know what happened. There was like a accident on 80 or something. I drove down from Reno and like I was late, and it just was, I don't know. I'd hate being late to events, right? Because get there before the athletes get there, stay till they leave, right?
Yeah.
Be like, where's Kristen? And she's like, hi, I'm Kristen. And I was like, no, where's Kristen? Like, you can't be organizing this and like not be freaking out right now. And she's like, no, what can I help you with? And I was like, okay, I'll pull myself together.
Yeah, she's good at that. She works here, but she has her own business. She runs like an entire volleyball team, like not like one team, like an entire program of teams, like different age groups and different divisions. And it's just like, I don't even know how she does it. She comes in, she's in here at 8 o'clock in the morning and then goes to volleyball and gets home at like 10 o'clock at night. every day. She's wild. She's out of control. She's out of control. Hard worker and out of control. But that's when. Oh yeah, but if she needs a day, or she needs a week, it's like, yeah, do what you got to do. I'll see you when you get back.
That's like the best type of employee too. You know what I mean? Because like they're passionate about it, they love it like it's theirs. They show up, they put it in, they go above and beyond. And it makes it really fun to like be their employer. It makes it really like enjoyable.
I think that's something that we didn't necessarily touch on, but just like the team that we have here right now, I think is the best team that we've had, maybe ever. And it's just people that are into what they're into the sports, they're into the lifestyle, they're living it. They're not just like, we've had people that had no interest in it, and it shows, right? I have a marketing person in here that's just not really into fitness and not really into, and you're having them do this visual representation of this thing that they're not even into, and like, no shit, it's not working. It's like, it's just, and learning from those mistakes, I think, is important, right? It's like right now, to be like, it's so funny, like our current like head of marketing, email marketing girl was a customer service employee.
Nice.
Just has no marketing. She didn't go to college for marketing. She's like but she's like so down with fitness, weightlifting, nutrition, and just all that comes with that she doesn't need all that bullshit. She just she knows what is going on in this sport and in this brand, and then she can just take her knowledge of that, and she's a smart person, so it's like she can figure it out from there, and we can still study analytically the side of like, if these marketing tactics working. Like, we know how to, we know how to do all that stuff, but it's like, yeah, you just never know. Someone in like, you think you need to hire some outside marketing agency, and it's like, no, actually it might be your customer service person who might be the best for the job. It's just like, you just don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, you can also too, and I'm sure you've probably had this happen, where you hire someone who's like perfect on paper.
Yeah.
Being like not the worst, but just not the best fit or application of that position. And
unfortunately, with having a business, sometimes you have to fire people, or you have to, make uncomfortable decisions, and you, even if you like the person, I've had to let go people that I had relationships with outside of the brand, and we're still friends and stuff like that, but it's like, like they just, it sucks, and it's just part of it. It comes with it, right? Like, oh, I thought this person would be really good in this position, and you end up being wrong. And you have to know, you cannot let somebody be in a position too long that is not doing what's expected. That's I think one of my biggest lessons that I've personally learned is just nipping it on the bud right away, and not just like, oh, maybe they'll figure it out, or maybe, we'll give them another chance. It's like, no, you just can't, because there's too many people's livelihoods that depend on this brand. It's not just like me, or it's not just them. It's like, no, you just got to, unfortunately, it's just part of it. And learning that lesson eventually was something that was important to us and to the brand, because there was times where we just had people in positions that they were just failing at and didn't have, cojones to take them out of those roles, and it hurt the business. So
yeah,
you live and you learn.
Well, and it's like floating the line between like being emotional and transactional. Like you want to cater to the person, but you also want to cater to the success of the business. And
it's nothing personal. It really isn't, and it's not. It's just like, it's just, guys, like, I'm sorry, we just can't do this anymore. It's not working, and we got to try something else. That's.
Well, and I think the same thing kind of too goes to like this application of athletes, the ideas of being an ambassador or representation of the brand. You guys have worked with big athletes. I mean, you mentioned Noah Olson. I mean, have you had to learn that type of, floating the line between emotional and transactional with athletes as well? Or is that something you guys still do? Or?
Yeah, I mean, It's so funny about that is sometimes your person that has 3,000 followers will move more product than somebody that has 350,000.
Yeah.
It all just comes about like, are there people that are following that person for other reasons or whatever? Like the following count doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like the popularity of that. It's just like, are people that are following this person super down with what they're doing? It's like the micro influencer, I think, is like the most genuine influencer there is at this point, right? It's like they're doing things that they're actually passionate about. They're actually repping things that they actually believe in compared to like a paycheck from like a big celebrity type pro athlete or something, right? Like a, NBA star or something that's just taking a check, right? Like you're not going to necessarily buy into what they're selling you. At least I don't know. Maybe I'm too close to like the industry or something, but I feel like people find a more genuine connection through real people than like these big, payouts for high profile athletes and stuff like that. We don't really pay out like big, like there's nobody that we have that just like gets a check for repping Caffeine and Kilos, right? It doesn't work like that. We have ways for our athletes to make money 100% and our ambassadors, right? We encourage them to use those avenues, and we also do paid by performance for our professional athletes, right? Like, hey, you get placement at these meets, or you do this good, and like you get these checks, right? And that for us is something that we've always done, and it's another creative way of getting people on board to represent the brand. And some people they don't even want anything; they just want to rep the gear because they love it, and that's cool too if that's what you want to do. Like we're down to send you some shirts if you want to lift in them and you want to train. Like great, that's cool. Like no problem. Let me know. And it's harder now than ever, I feel like, to find a top athlete that just doesn't want a check. And that's just it is what it is now. I think these sports have gotten so big. That's kind of what they have agents now, and those agents need to get paid. And they're not going to get paid from your discount code you're giving them necessarily, right? They're going to want X amount of dollars a month that they're going to get a cut of. So now, like, all of a sudden, these sports are so big now you're not even talking to these athletes anymore that were your friends. Now you're talking to agents. It's crazy. Like that whole evolution of that, like that we've dealt with, like, oh, like I'm friends with these guys and we used to just text.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, okay. Now I'm like new not necessarily like guys that we were working with still, but more just like other guys that we're reaching out to. It's like, oh yeah, I just hit up my agent or this and that. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. I guess that's where we're at now. Yeah. And then you just know where that's going to go, right? You just know where that's going to go. They're going to want, X amount per month, and they'll find somebody to do that, but it's not necessarily going to be us because we just don't see the return in those things. Unfortunately, I don't think the return's necessarily there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's a hard consideration and it's a hard conversation because, like you said, it's not emotional. It's not that you know what I mean, don't ever genuinely care or for like the human, right? Like you associate with the human first and then it's the business. But just kind of going back to that original landscape that we talked about in the consumer base and the social media and the way that things change. And of course you have to adapt to it, but there's also a level of like, as a business owner or as someone in the industry, like at what point does it make you want to change your value system or, recognize like, hey, this actually isn't the best avenue for us. And this isn't something that's like a core value for us. And so we're going to pivot in a different direction,
Yeah, for sure. It's always just this, it's just a balancing act all the time, right? Just trying to, I don't know. It's just hard to put a finger on like what necessarily, it's hard. You just don't know which one's going to work and which one isn't. Right.
That's like, you start to get in that thought and then you can get like wrapped up in it. And then it's a Monday and then you're like, kind of like slowly pulling out hair by hair. And then all of a sudden you're like, let's go back to the basics. Let's
go back. I think if there's anything to take away from anything that I've said, it's like, just stick to what you're good at.
Yeah.
And just ride that pony into the instead of just like, let's just keep doing what we're good at and things are going to work out, and stay true to what we believe in. And as long as you do that, I think that it's hard to, not see some positive, growth from that and stuff of that nature, and I think back, like what you just said, like back to the roots is like us at one point kind of getting away from local competitions and not doing as many of those because we felt like we didn't have to, quote unquote, like was stupid. And also we were also busy, like, so it's hard to like find the balance of like, I need to like have a weekend, I am a human. I do need a break, right? We were small, like I said, we're a small team. And we don't have like just a ton of like investor money to like pay people in regions to just go do booths at places, right? It's not like we're a bootstrap company. We've never had a dime given to us from anybody. It's
we're right.
So it's very different. It's not, there's a million brands out there that, start with, $10 million in the bank from investor groups, right? And they just pump it into these spaces, right? Where guys and girls like us that are like trying to do this thing from the ground up, and then these big corporations now are coming in with big bankrolls and they're taking over the ad space and they're taking over the events, and it's hard to compete with that. But it's also like I try my best to not compare us to those people and just stick to, like we just said, stick to what we're good at. And our people are going to ride with us and they're going to be down with us as long as we stay true to who we are. And I kind of got off track. I remember we were first.
I don't know. I like where that went though.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it still worked out. But yeah, like like I said, the local events. So I think for 2023, for us, it's like grinding local events, going to pop-ups at CrossFit gyms on a Friday night with just a class.
Yeah,
like just like popping in, get our our traveling team there, and just hitting up as many gyms as we can on Friday nights, and then going to any local competitions on weekends. And when we go there, we will do things like lead captures, right? We'll do like like a bean guessing game, like how many beans are in the jar, like old school stuff, school marketing, right? And like, people still have fun with that. It's so funny. Like you think you have to come up with this like collaborative, like fancy, like lead capture. Like the most leads things we've done is one time we brought like literally like a putting mat to the CrossFit games, laid it on the ground and put a mug at the end of it, coffee mug. And if you make it, you sign up with your email. And if you make it, you get the mug, you get a brand new mug and a bag of coffee if you make it. And if you don't, you get one chance, and that's it. And then we just generate leads through stuff like that. And people had a blast. We were lining up trying to try it. It was fun. It created, and we got some great photos out of it. We got some great just interactions and meeting people. You just meet so many people, through doing stuff like that. You have conversations with strangers that, just align with what you're into. And it's just connecting with people. And that's what I'm getting at, is like going to these local meets are just so important to connect and to people can see the face of the brand and get to know us and get to know who works for us and with us. And yeah, I think our vision this year is just like, getting back to basics again and just doubling down on it. Just the nostalgic approach to things of just meeting people and doing the right thing.
And even just like getting better at what you're good at.
Yeah.
Like it's fun. It's exciting in its own right. It's like continually earning your own respect and proving to yourself like this is what I'm good at and this is why I do it. And it's as much as like I've always found too, the more that you are able to share that with others, you get that equal return like within you, because you get to walk away from that event or that class that, a lot of people would be like, oh, it's not worth the spend. It's an hour class on a Friday. What am I going to do with my Friday? And it's like, okay, well, first of all, if you have that mentality, let's rewrite that.
Yeah.
Not too good to go to that class. But also it's like you always get something out of those interactions that you never expected. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of being a part of this community and really investing into the integrity of it and contributing to it positively. So
that's the trick, is contributing to it in a positive way. Because there is people that do things a little differently and and it shows, and then that's why they're not around anymore. They're not, no one really messes with them. But it's just, you just got to treat people right and with respect. It's kind of pretty simple. It sounds like it would be like really easy, and everybody would do it, but it's just like it's just weird. I don't know. It's just like we've always found that to be an easy thing to do, but apparently some people struggle with it.
It's true, right? And that I feel like that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
That's another hour.
So on the next podcast, we will talk about how to be an asshole and how not to.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it all disappear.
Dean, what can we expect from Caffeine and Kilos as far as any new releases or collaborations that you want to share that you have kind of coming up that
this year, like I said, we're going to kind of go back to the drawing board on just really getting out there, getting in on the streets, getting at events. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there at these events, and hopefully the goal is to start building out some teams nationally at events, right? Where we can't be in, Kansas on a Friday night at a gym, but hopefully we can start building teams around, United States to get more people out there doing those things. So it's not just happening here in California, and to expand the brand so you guys can have those same opportunities as everybody else. And just to meet, people that we, respect and doing, seminars and stuff like that outside of there. But yeah, as far as like collabs, I got some stuff out there, not necessarily going to talk about yet, but hopefully that all works out. Some cool stuff in the pipeline. Another thing is also we're trying to do a little bit more cut and sew stuff this year too. It was a lot. It got really hard to do that kind of stuff with COVID and just the factories situation overseas, and trying to find factories here that where it financially makes sense is just really hard to do. I'm not trying to. We're not a brand that to be totally transparent. Like, you don't come to Caffeine and Kilos for $200 pair of joggers, so like we have to get things at a certain price to pay the bills, right? So it's like, we have to, wait for opportunities where it aligns with us to where you're, coming to us for the right things, right? And yeah, so more cut and sew stuff this year, hopefully, kind of more specific male and female stuff in that nature, and yeah, maybe some couple cool collabs down the way, and yeah, hopefully to see you out more local events and stuff like that.
Totally. And you guys, one of the things, like, for everyone listening that we talked about earlier was, that Matt brought up, was reaching out to your athletes, right? Reaching out to people that you look up to on social media, connecting with them, getting that real human aspect going. The brands are no different. You guys just heard that C&K's big mission this year is to get in front of you. And even if you are in Kansas, tell them, hey, I would love if you came to my gym. If you own a gym in Indiana and you know that they can't get there maybe in the next 6 months, maybe they could get there thereafter, you've got to reach out to them, and you've got to share those things and why you would want to do that, so that you're in our mind, and that you're in Dean's mind, that they know that that's a place where they want to go. Because without that, as a business owner, we kind of just shoot in the dark and collect our data and try to do our best on, what we think is there. But part of, Caffeine and Kilos and why everyone here at Swole really likes C&K is because they care and they're invested in the community and they're not going anywhere. And so it's like, if you want them around, if you want to, see them, support them, do something with them, if you want to come out to the Invitational, come out to Sacramento, it's pretty easy if you just realize that we're connected just one message away,
Right. Yeah, one message away.
So, Dean, how do people follow you guys? I think the email list, so going to the website, caffeineandkilos.com, is probably the best way to get engaged and hear about sales and promotions and, what's going on, new drops, things like that. So go join their email list. The handle is at Caffeine and Kilos. Is that true?
Yeah, at Caffeine and Kilos. Yeah, you can always join our email list if you're into that, or also our SMS list, where we do a lot of kind of specialty, flash sales once a week on our SMS list. Something that we've kind of actually shifted like a little bit of more attention to that lately is hey, anybody that wants to join the text list, we're going to reward you for that. So we're going to give you offers that no one else is even seeing. You're going to get a 20% off for 4 hours kind of discount code and stuff like that, or BOGOs on something. And, we're kind of rewarding those people that are kind of jumping on that thing. Cause I know I personally, I'm signed up for a handful of SMSs, and I look at every single one, so they work on me. I feel special. I feel special about, getting hooked up on SMS. But yeah, you can follow us at Caffeine and Kilos on Instagram and stuff like that if you want to see what our athletes are up to, or a funny meme, or maybe a new drop. We try and, it's so funny. Like, I know we're wrapping up, but it's like we don't necessarily like try and hold any integrity of like visual integrity to our page. We just kind of do whatever we like. If there's something that we think is funny or something that we think is cool, we're going to put it on there. We're not going to just worry about like, oh, does this fit the aesthetic of like a brand's page? You know what? I'm going to make a funny meme from Jurassic Park because I like that movie. I'm going to put it on there. And I think that's something too that like we've learned to not take social media too serious. Because then you kind of just lose, you lose a little bit of something there, I think, sometimes. But, some people that worked for us, but it doesn't work, but it works for us, I think. But yeah, anyways.
I would agree. I think it's pretty cool. And absolutely, you guys can find Dean on Instagram. His handle is in the video. Or if we have an audio listener, it's deansaddoris.ck. Am I saying that right, Saddoris?
Yes, Saddoris. Yeah, I usually get Saddoris, but Saddoris is correct. It's a good job. Okay. Also, by the way, the mango pre-Swolverine is just so delicious.
I'm so glad you
I'm a sucker for like the tingle beta alanine. So I get like just like the perfect amount of like tingle pump out of that. And I've really been enjoying that. The thing is so funny. Like I'm not like a big pre-taker, like I just kind of like have enough. I kind of limit my caffeine consumption to like the mornings. And then like, that's why I like the pre so much, because it's stimulant free. And I'm using that when I'm like working out in the afternoon or whatever. And I get that energy without having to worry about like being up till fucking 2 a.m. So it's been and I love how and the taste of it is bomb. Love the taste, by the way. So you guys are doing a good job with everything over there. But that's the thing I just specifically really enjoy. And that it was not a paid plug on that.
No.
And I did pay for it, by the way. I was not given that. I purchased that, and I stand by it, and I really enjoy it, and I will be purchasing more.
That's awesome. Thanks, Dean. I think I remember Walter, he came in the office one day and he's like, "Did you see Dean's post?" And I was like, "Oh no, what happened?" And he's like,
"Oh,
no.
This is yeah."
He put this huge disclaimer on it before he ever talked about what it was. "This is not paid post. I bought this," and it's true.
It was true. Anyway, and I will be buying more. Like I said, I just don't. It's just like I don't take it every time I work out, but when I do, I'm like, man, this is so good.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely love my apparel. I love my socks. I've worn my socks into the ground. So I will be purchasing some more.
Yeah, we'll get you some socks. We'll hook you guys up with some socks.
Well, Dean, I've loved having the opportunity to chat with you and learn more about C&K. I hope our followers out there definitely go be a part of the brand. What they're doing is something really special. They've been doing it for 10 years. Congratulations on the anniversary. It's an amazing accomplishment. As a fellow business owner, tremendous amount of respect and admiration for what you guys are doing and how you stay relevant and how you still contribute to the athlete in the community. Make sure to follow Swole Friends. Subscribe on YouTube, where we do these lives every week with amazing people like Dean, business owners, athletes, influential people, really give you that one-on-one conversational look at who they are and what makes them tick. For our audio listeners, thank you for hopping on. We can have you subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Twitch. And if you have any guests that you want to see on the show, definitely let us know. And Dean, thank you. We'll chat again with you soon, okay?
Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure. You've been a great host, and I've had a lot of fun. And it's been a good time.
And you guys have a podcast as well, before we go real quick, right?
Yes, we do. If you want to hear some mumbo jumbo mixed with some like actually pretty good information and a lot of really fun guests from all over the place, you can follow us at gas station on Instagram at gas station cappuccino. But wherever you get your podcasts, you can just check out gas station cappuccino. And the name from that, I'm sure you're wondering,
I know.
It's kind of like, it's one of those podcasts where, it does the job. You get some entertainment value. It's just like the coffee from a gas station. It might not be the best out there, but it gets the job done. And that's kind of our podcast. It's very loose. It's very, it's fun, and sometimes we have some guests on there that are way out of our league, that are really, really smart and really, really cool. So you get some good info out of that. But yeah.
So awesome. Dean. It's been a pleasure. And everyone here on the Swole Friends podcast, we thank you for listening. We'll catch up with you next time.